Have you ever felt like your relationship is just under constant attack? Like there are people on the outside actively trying to break it apart? It's not just frustrating, right? It's completely exhausting. And while it's a surprisingly common feeling, that absolutely doesn't make it okay. So today, we're going to deconstruct that feeling. We'll pinpoint the exact behaviors causing it, and most importantly, we're going to build a toolkit to help you defend your relationship and, your sanity.
And this quote, wow, it just hits you, doesn't it? It perfectly captures that raw, painful feeling we're talking about. This isn't just about simple jealousy. No, it's way deeper. It feels like you're under siege, like you're constantly defending your territory. And it's so important to just stop and say, that experience is real and it is completely valid. It can feel like a full-on targeted campaign to break you and your partner up. And the emotional toll, it's just immense. We're talking chronic stress, anxiety, and this deep, sinking feeling of helplessness. You might even find yourself starting to blame, well, yourself. But let's be crystal clear. This is not just some awkward social situation. It's a kind of psychological warfare, and it's designed to destroy your trust, not just in other people, but maybe even in your own judgment. Okay, so let's get into it. First up, we need to actually identify these behaviors. Because even though these threats feel so personal, they actually fall into some very recognizable and frankly destructive patterns. And trust me, understanding these patterns, that's the first step to taking their power away. Now, this is absolutely crucial. We have to draw a hard line between two very different things. On one side, you've got normal, friendly social interaction. Just people being people. But on the other side, you have predatory pursuit. And that's a whole different beast. We're talking about behavior that is persistent, completely disrespectful of your relationship, and just manipulative. Their goal isn't friendship. It's to tear down what you have for their own selfish gain. And this whole dynamic, it gets 1,000 times worse when it happens at work, especially when there's a power imbalance involved. Think about it. When the unwanted attention is coming from a boss or an executive or someone who holds your career in their hands, they're not just crossing a line. They're literally holding your job, your dreams, your future hostage. It creates this impossible no-win situation where saying no could cost you everything you've built. So a lot of these behaviors tend to show up in a few key ways. You can think of them as three faces of the same problem. First, you have the score mentality, the person who sees other people as objects, as conquests. Then there's the relationship poacher, who specifically targets people who are already in a committed relationship, all for an ego boost. And finally, you have the workplace predator, who abuses their professional power for personal gain. They might look different on the surface, but they all grow from the exact same toxic roots. All right, so identifying the behaviors is one thing. That's half the battle. But to really, truly defend against them, we have to go deeper. We need to understand why. Why do people do this? What is actually going on inside their heads? Sometimes it can feel like these people have some kind of superpower, right? Like they can read your mind and know the exact thing to say to create doubt and insecurity. The source material actually has a name for this feeling. It talks about evil sensory powers. But here's the thing. It's not magic. It's much more straightforward. It's a highly developed and frankly destructive skill set. It's like they've weaponized emotional intelligence to read people's needs and insecurities and then exploit them. So what's really driving all this? Well, when you look at the core drivers, what you find is a profound internal emptiness. And this is so important. It has nothing to do with the target's worth or any flaws in the relationship. It's all about them. It's driven by a super fragile ego that needs constant validation from the outside, a serious lack of empathy, and this twisted worldview where relationships aren't something to cherish, they're a competitive game to be won. Now, after going through something like this, it is so easy and honestly completely understandable to start generalizing. The pain is so real and so sharp that you can start to feel like this toxic behavior is just the norm, that it represents an entire group of people. But we have to ask the question, is that really true? And the answer is a clear and resounding no. The sources are really firm on this. This is the behavior of a dangerous and importantly, visible minority, not the majority. See, these people are loud, they leave a huge trail of destruction, and that makes them seem way more common than they actually are. When we generalize their actions, we're basically handing them the power to define reality for everyone, and that is the absolute last thing we want to do. Okay, so we've identified the behavior, we've looked inside the mindset that drives it. Now let's pivot to what really matters, solutions. How do you actually defend your relationship? The absolute key is to shift your mindset. You have to move away from you versus me and into a solid us versus the problem framework. This has to be a team effort.
And this, right here, this is the core principle. A strong relationship should be a sanctuary. It should be your safe, secure space. If it constantly feels like a battlefield where you're always fighting off threats from the outside, then something has to change. Because the real defense isn't about fighting off every single person who comes along. It's about building the walls of your sanctuary so strong that nobody even thinks about trying to test them.
So how do you actually build that sanctuary? Well, the sources lay out a really clear 4-step plan. Number 1, communicate. Always, always use that us versus the problem language. It keeps you on the same team. Number 2, co-create your boundaries. Sit down together and agree on what is and is not okay. Number 3, present a united front. When you're out, use simple cues, both verbal and physical, to show you're a team. And number 4, and listen, this one is critical. The partner who is being targeted has to be the one to shut it down. A clear, firm no from them is the single most powerful tool you have.
Now, working as a team is obviously huge, but empowering yourself as an individual is just as important. And this goes for everyone, whether you're in a relationship or not. We all need a personal defense toolkit. So let's get into the practical, hands-on strategies and scripts you can use to protect yourself, no matter the situation. I really want this to sink in. You are not powerless here, not even close. This is all about shifting your posture from being reactive to being proactive. It's about arming yourself with knowledge, with awareness, and with concrete strategies so that when something happens, you can respond with total confidence and clarity. Okay, so your first line of defense is always going to be early recognition. So here are the red flags to watch for. Be on the lookout for quid pro quo, manipulation. Someone dangling an opportunity in exchange for your attention. Watch for persistent, unwanted contact after you've already said no. Or just constant boundary violations like intrusive questions or showing up uninvited. Also, be really wary of love bombing, that super intense, too good to be true connection that happens way too fast. And maybe the biggest tell of all? Watch for a sudden change in their demeanor the second they find out you're unavailable. That shift, it tells you absolutely everything you need to know. And when you spot one of those red flags, you need clear, direct language ready to go. No apologies, no trying to soften the blow. It's a great idea to practice some simple scripts like, I prefer to keep our relationship professional, or I'm not comfortable with this conversation. Even a direct, this behavior is inappropriate and it needs to stop immediately. Having these phrases ready means you won't get caught off guard in a stressful moment. And remember, each one of those is a complete sentence. You don't owe anyone any more explanation than that. And this might be the single most important thing to take away from all of this. Please remember, your right to feel safe and comfortable is more important than their feelings about being rejected. You have the absolute 100% right to say no, to set a boundary, and to walk away, all without offering a single word of justification or explanation. That right, it is totally non-negotiable. So let's wrap this up with a powerful, affirming truth. Your boundaries matter. Your voice matters. Your safety matters. Protecting yourself isn't being difficult or dramatic. It's absolutely essential. And when you stand firm in your worth and trust your gut, you're not just protecting yourself, you're actually making it easier for the next person to do the same. So maybe the real question isn't just how we defend ourselves, but how we can start to build a world where this kind of defense is needed less and less.